There are nearly 1,000 of these statues on the remote island of Rapa Nui, some standing 30 feet high and weighing 14 tons. For centuries, explorers and historians looked at these massive engineering projects and asked the same question: how did a civilization capable of this feat seem to just vanish? The standard answer is a story of ecological suicide, positing that the Rapa Nui people destroyed their own environment to sustain their monument building. This assumption turned the island into a grim cautionary tale, a warning of human recklessness projected onto a tiny, isolated outcrop in the Pacific. This theory, popularized by Western academics like Jared Diamond, assumes Rapa Nui once hosted a booming population of 15,000 people or more. According to the story, these islanders chopped down every palm tree to use as rollers to transport their giant statues across the landscape. This deforestation supposedly led to total ecological failure, followed by starvation, civil war, and eventually cannibalism. However, a new wave of genomic, climate, and satellite data is beginning to dismantle this established narrative. If the Rapa Nui didn't destroy their own civilization, we have to look closer at what actually caused their population to collapse. While the island was indeed treeless by the 18th century, human logging was not the primary driver of that change. The real culprit arrived as hidden stowaways in the canoes of the original Polynesian settlers, the Polynesian rat. With no natural predators, the rat population exploded to an estimated 11 million. They devoured the palm seeds, making it impossible for the slow-growing forest to regenerate. The loss of trees was an unintended ecological disaster, the direct result of a biological invasion. This transition left the Rapa Nui on an island with nutrient-poor volcanic soil and no forest. The question is how they managed to feed themselves. They developed rock gardens, or lithic mulching, protecting crops and fertilizing soil. Satellite imagery mapped the exact acreage of these networks. The agricultural yield from this footprint reveals a maximum sustainable population of only 2,000 to 4,000 people. This data suggests there was never a massive population crash from 15,000. The Rapa Nui likely maintained a stable population matched to their food supply. New research is also challenging the idea of violent civil wars sparked by a 16th century megadrought. The Rapa Nui responded to drought by shifting away from the resource-heavy moai ancestor worship toward a new social system, the Birdman cult, centered at Orongo. For decades, historians pointed to thousands of sharpened obsidian objects called mataa as evidence of endemic warfare, assuming they were spearheads. Morphometric analysis, a physical measurement of their geometry, shows these objects are too wide and blunt to be lethal weapons. Instead, they functioned as general-purpose tools for farming and ritual tasks. Instead of collapsing into violence, the Rapa Nui responded to climate stress through adaptation and cultural shifts. The society was functioning successfully in its isolated environment until a catastrophic external disruption arrived in 1722. On Easter Sunday of that year, Dutch explorers landed on the island, marking the first contact with the Western world. These initial visits introduced foreign pathogens to an isolated population that had zero natural immunity. The demographic decline of the Rapa Nui did not precede European contact. It was a direct consequence of it. The fatal blow came in 1862, when Peruvian slave raiders abducted up to half the island's population, systematically removing their political and cultural leaders. The few survivors who were eventually freed returned to the island carrying smallpox and tuberculosis, which swept through the remaining population. By the year 1877, this once stable civilization was reduced to just 111 native individuals. The history of Rapa Nui stands as a record of indigenous resilience, a society that mastered its environment, only to be overwhelmed by external devastation.